the mob. My barber got me looking real every single time. Fresh bread, getting fitted on that top grade. No, you ain't walking out alive, smoking way beyond. And you know I got that boy for the ones you know. R.I.P.'s in your memory, we carry on. When I die, they will not bury me, not what I want. Burn my body, pour my ashes in the river, y'all. That's how we know it, that the flow about to carry on. See, immortality's a fallacy, I prove it wrong. The Southern family gon' carry me the way we love. Anything you've ever known, anything you've done. They ask me how you get like this, how you live like this. Why you worry about it? Get up on my neck, can you get up out the way? What you think this is? You ain't worry about it. Why you straight away, they ask me how you get like this, how you live like this. Why you worry about it? Get up on my neck, get up out the way.
The Rallyabat, it was mad. It just had such good connection between driver and vehicle. It just felt like telepathy. Loved it.
The best car I drove this year was the BMW M2. We drove it in the recent trip we did to Bangalore. Felt very good to be back in a M car after 3-4 years after we got the M8. Yeah, I was shitting my pants while driving it, but it was too much fun.
The best car I ever drove this year also was the fastest BMW I've ever driven. That was the BMW M340i. B58, cannot go wrong with it. Wow.
The best car I drove this year was the M140i because as a product I've always loved the M140i. I always hoped that it would come down to India, but it never did. So when someone actually built it, I was more than eager to drive it, and it was one of the best experiences I've had this year in terms of driving.
Honestly, the M4 competition was something that was insanely fast. I drove crazy cars this year, A45, M340i, like basically all of them. But the M4, I mean, it was tuned, all-wheel drive. You could just go fast in it whenever you wanted. No struggle for traction. It was mind-blowing.
The ZX-10R. I didn't ride it for very long, but the little experience I got, it was amazing. I've never driven or ridden anything that fast ever.
Best bike I rode this year has to be the Swat Pillion 401. It was too good of a bike for me. I felt it was perfect for the city and for long trips as well. I mean, I didn't get to go for long trips, but it was a very fun bike.
So the best bike I rode this year was the BMW G3 10R. अरे याद कर रहा हूँ क्या बोलने वाला था. So the best bike, so the best bike I rode this year was the BMW G3 10R. The main reason why it was the best bike was because I got to ride it in the ghats. I got to go fast. I got to attack the corners on the BMW G3 10R, and I also got to take a BMW to my college.
Is it flex? Cause it drop when I talk.
Yes, the best bike or two-wheeler I rode this year was a Suzuki Avensis because I just got a new one. And it's been a very, very pleasant experience so far, and my previous scooter had just gone to the dogs.
I rode quite a lot of bikes this year, but the RTR 310, I had it for the longest time, and it had a whole bunch of features which I did not know bikes had, like ventilated seats and stuff like that. And overall, it was just a very easy bike to ride with, a very easy, gave you a lot of confidence, honestly.
My favorite trip was IBW, Goa. I went for the weekend to India Bike Week with Dhaval. It was lit. We had a little bit of an accident on the way, but the weekend was amazing.
So the best trip of this year has to be the Goa trip that we did in the 320 LD. Going to Goa in a BMW with the boys was just too much fun, and Goa, as always, can never go wrong. So best trip of this year.
This year, the best trip I had was the Jan Bangalore one. That on that trip, I got to sit in the BMW M5, and I also got to rev it.
The May Bangalore trip was a trip that was really good this year because for starters, everything happened very smoothly. We drove a lot of cool cars, honestly that people thought could not be built properly, but they were, and met a lot of new people along the way as well. So it was a great trip altogether.
I mean, I really wanted to say my favorite car of the year was the M2, but I couldn't say that. But in the November Bangalore trip, I drove a whole bunch of cool cars: Integra Type R, M2, Z4 M40i, some of my favorite cars of the year. So that's why it has to be my favorite.
So I started off on a high at the KTM Cup. I felt like my pace was pretty high and I was getting a lot of praise from my peers, but I think that got to my head and I took one of Evo India's boys along with me on a very bad crash. Check the footage.
कैसी है ये अनहोनी हर आँख हुई रंग छोड़ गया जो तू कैसे जिएंगे हम तू ही किनारा.
So the biggest L I took this year has to be the trip we did to Kumbhe Waterfalls in the C300. The whole point of the video was to go to Kumbhe Waterfalls and take some beautiful sunrise shots with the drone. But unfortunately, I forgot to take the drone, and yeah, that didn't happen properly. So big L from my side.
So the biggest L I've taken this year was crashing my brand. So the biggest L I've taken this year was crashing my brand new bike on the way to IBW Goa. Yes, I had to. So the biggest L I've taken this year was crashing my brand new bike on the way to Goa for the IBW event. And yeah, as you can see, I got hurt pretty bad. I cannot ride my bike for the next 2 months. My hand is confined to this brace now. L.
So I was going with Dhaval to Aurangabad to look at this one VRS, and so I had to book the ticket. I had to book the hotel room for the next day, but I ended up booking it for the day I was actually in Pune only. And so the next day when we were on the way, I got a call from the hotel saying that your booking is coming to an end. So when will you check out? And that's when I realized that I've taken the L.
Biggest L that I took this year was not planning a family vacation properly. I, by mistake, pre-booked the tickets 1 month early, and that basically created havoc in the office because I had to go for a bunch of shoots and I was gone for 7 days on like 1 day notice. So yeah, that was probably the biggest L.
My favorite moment of the year was actually figuring out how to ride a bike properly and get my knee down. It was lovely. Had too much fun. And Curry at the KTM Cup Season 2. It was a revelation I never could have imagined to have.
Favorite moment of the year has to be the first trip that we went to Bangalore. It was in the month of Jan, and the first shoot that we had was the BMW M4 and the Stage 3 M340i. We landed at 2, woke up at 4 for the shoot and had no water, nothing to eat till 12 o'clock. But yeah, has to be one of the best moments of this year in my opinion.
So the best moment for me this year was the day I finished my final SEM exams. Was the day I left for Hyderabad with the boys in my dad's XUV 500. It was a lit trip. We did cover a lot of cars. Hyderabad, cannot go wrong with it. Always a lit trip. It was a fun day, fun trip.
My favorite moment this year was when we achieved 23.5 kilometers to the liter with a BMW 320 LD. For starters, getting a number like that on the sort of highway that we were, it was super impressive, and we had made it a point to at least cross 23 kilometers per liter, and we were able to do so. So that made me really happy. So,
like I said, I really wanted to say the M2 was my favorite car of the year, but since Shreyas took it, but my favorite moment has to be just going balls out in the M2. I mean, that car was amazing and it really kept me on my toes, and yeah, it was just an experience that I'll never forget.
I got registered. Yay!